we had talked on Friday about the Bill C-6, which was to ban conversion therapy in terms of both gay conversion therapy and gender conversion therapy. We supported Bill C-6. I will note, and this was kind of touched on Friday, which was that the bill had some pushback from the LGBTQ plus community, but for reasons that I kind of highlighted already on Friday, which is that it still allows for a kind of voluntary conversion therapy, regardless of what that asshole said that we covered on Friday. And specifically, as I pointed out in the bill, it mostly talks about coercion and stuff like that. And so a lot of LGBTQ plus advocates uh, didn't oppose the bill, but just said that it didn't go far enough in that it allowed people to do this like voluntary version of it that doesn't involve coercion.
Yes. The liberals put something in that doesn't go far enough, but gives them like a semi-progressive
Veneer, yeah.
clout. Like, whoa.
I will say though, I think there might be a sort of like stipulation in the bill that still might mitigate some of that, which is the restriction on advertising and promotion might cut against its availability to the point of like even people being able to voluntarily seek it out. But like, yeah, it gets complicated. But yeah, some communities said that it didn't go far enough, which I respect. I still think that it's worth passing because we're gonna get what we're gonna get. You know, I would rather have this in place than not have anything at all. But yeah, it's just funny that the asshole on Friday was saying that he wants it to be available so that he can voluntarily choose it, and was arguing that the bill doesn't allow that, and yet the LGBTQ community was actually saying that it doesn't go far enough since it actually allows you to do that. So that guy we talked about on Friday was just a special ignorant human being. So what happened was yesterday it passed, or not yesterday, 2 days ago, it passed. We have Bill C-6 passed its third reading, which means so long as the Senate does what the Senate is supposed to do, conversion therapy will be banned in Canada for both gay conversion therapy and gender conversion therapy. So, small victory. Huzzah! It passed. But then we had this weird little interesting event happen. So we got here Ryan Turnbull. He is a Liberal MP. Let's see what it says here. He's the Liberal MP for Whitby, it seems. And he puts out this tweet here, which says, there's little, so this was right before the bill passed. He goes, there's little time left to pass a bill to ban conversion therapy. Yet NDP MPs Don Davies and Jack Harris joined forces with Conservatives to block debate after partnering with the CPC to shame a public servant leading our COVID response. Shameful. And so I was like, this seems weird, in part because the NDP super supports this bill. What does all this mean? And I look into it, and what he's referring to is Don Davies, and he didn't end the debate. He didn't block the debate. None of that happened. But at a similar time during, the normal interactions in the House of Commons, he was calling out the Liberals for their something to do with the vaccine rollout. So the issue here is that the Liberals have been screwing up the vaccine rollout. At least I think most people will accept that, except for liberals, of course, that think that Justin Trudeau can do no wrong. But the vaccine rollout was not great. And the worry that the opposition parties have is that there was some kind of backroom dealing. That they chose one company over another over favoritism, that kind of shenanigans, right? And so the NDP, working with the Conservatives, petitioned the government to release some sort of documentation. And then when they got the documentation, a bunch of it was redacted. And now they're concerned that that redaction was done like preactively by the Liberals to cover something up, and they're complaining about it. And that's what Don Davies did. Now, I don't know that there's any shenanigans here, but let's remember that we have like SNC Lavalin, we have the We charity scandal. The Liberals are not are constantly doing background uh, deal shit and doing this kind of corruption shit. So like we can expect corruption to be happening here. So why not it be happening here as well, you know? So that's all that Don Davies wanted, and it had nothing to do with the fucking Bill C-6. But here it is. Liberal MPs talking, and notice how he says, there's little time left to pass a bill. That was because of the Liberals deciding the precedent the bills come in. Like we could have had a ban on conversion therapy happen all the way back in 2015 when they got fucking elected. And then again in 2019 when they got fucking elected. But it comes here that they're like, oh, because there's other things that the NDP wants to do. And of course, the next day, the bill fucking passed. So it's not like this caused a delay. The Liberals are making some sort of stink about it. So there's been this ongoing thing that somehow the NDPs are working with Conservatives. And I will just say, the only time that really happens is over corruption issues. And you can understand why that would happen. So if you take the We charity scandal, or you take SNC Lavalin, or even if you take this vaccine distribution issue or supply issue, both Conservatives and the NDP go, we don't want a corrupt Liberal Party, and we're going to use this as some political advantage. In part because, like, fuck corruption, but also in part, there's political advantage to cast your opponent as corrupt and doing corrupt dealing. But that doesn't mean that we work, like, that somehow, in working with the Conservatives over this vaccine issue, that somehow the NDP are, like, in bed with the Conservative Party of Canada. Who I would say, when the final vote tally came in, 60 some odd Conservatives voted no for Bill C-6, the conversion therapy bill. None of the NDP voted against the bill.
And one Derek Sloan.
Oh yeah, okay. I mean, he's a conservative, but yeah. Derek Sloan got kicked out of the Conservatives for being a COVID denialist, pretty much.
He got kicked out because of the donation from Paul Frum.
Oh yeah, Paul Frum! Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
I mean, he went from the Paul Frum thing to like dive straight into COVID denialism. So I forgot that a little bit.
Yeah. There was something else that I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah, just like how dare opposition parties oppose the government? They must support the government all the time.
I mean,
yeah, is what liberals argue. Like, I don't. What is the
thing that annoys me is just as like, I mean, like, yes, I mean, there's like a liberal talking point, which would be to paint NDP and conservative as the same, to then stand up and go, the liberals are the true progressive option, right? We're the true progressives.
Yeah.
And you can see in the chat, there's some people who I'm going to skip over some of it because a lot of NDP showed up and started like yelling at him. So the NDP has been cozying up to the Conservatives for a while. People need to wake up. So Jagmeet Singh, who sees himself as Canadian savior, has no control over these guys? Or does he really condone this? Right? They're like, the NDP are becoming more and more like cons with every passing week. Like, these comments are so
Those
absurd.
are fucking insane. Like,
aren't they? And again, I'll point out,
Sandy and Nora on their podcast, which, like, I talk about that podcast a lot, but it's very good. They have a whole thing talking about, like, liberal troll farms. And, like, there's no way that half of those are real people. Probably, like, less than half are real. Because
if they are real, that is a sad indictment of our society.
Oh my god. That's the thing too, is like I just have to desperately hope that they're not real.
Yeah. And so Don Davies even found out. So it wasn't just Turnbull. All of a sudden, a bunch of Liberal MPs were putting out almost the exact same tweet, calling out Don Davies and Jack Harris, right? And in one of them, they left the email thread where clearly they were sharing this amongst themselves as a fucking talking point.
Really appreciate it. Jay, that is Trudeau.
Well, I mean, it could be anyone. The funny thing is, Jen O'Connell was one of the ones who like retweeted it, and Jen O'Connell was like, so he says, "Pro tip: if you're going to spread preposterous and false information about my interventions in Parliament, at least don't screenshot the emails where you discuss doing it." And then Jennifer responds, "Pro tip: if you're going to make accusations, you shouldn't include someone based on a single initial. Wrong, Jay. Oh, and by the way, stop the stall and banning conversion therapy." And it's like, who's banning? Who's stalling conversion therapy? Literally, the next day, it fucking passed. It's so embarrassing. I don't understand how liberals can like look at this. It was literally the next day. There you go. 263 yays, 63 nays. Beautiful.
I hate Parliament. Get rid of that fucking building.
So, and I wanted to do this just to point out, because look, I try to be friendly to liberals, to be like, join us, move further to the left, like leave this behind, especially progressive liberals, because like you have to see that exchange and know that they're just being dishonest hacks, and they're trying to cover up their own fucking bullshit, which is that they fucked up the vaccines. That's all that posturing is. It's a distraction from the fact that they fucked up the vaccine rollout. Just admit it. It's okay to admit it. I admit it myself when the NDP fucks up. In fact, I'm so vocal on this show constantly when the NDP fucks up, and I make a statement about it. In this case, the NDP voted for the fucking bill. There was no fuck up. There was no stall. Nothing. They just also were trying to hold the liberals accountable for the bullshit that they're doing.
How dare you use parliamentary procedure against us?
And so, like, I just don't know how anyone can be liberals. I don't get it, especially progressive liberals. I mean, I get rich liberals who, like, there's a class interest there in voting for liberal, all that fun shit. But, like, seriously, stop this. Stop the nonsense. We could have had the better Bill C-6 that went far enough. We could have had all that. And then we could have criticized the NDP for not going far enough, which I would much rather be in that position. Anyways, I saw that exchange and was just flabbergasted by how, again, the responses. Now, if you're right and it's a troll farm, then okay. But, like, if those are real people, our society is screwed.
Yeah. On that note, I can tell when my mom has, like, early on in the pandemic, my mom was, like, really addicted to Twitter. And I can always tell when she has been using Twitter too much, because she starts using those sorts of talking points of, like, Jugmeat working with the cons and stuff like that. It does, like, affect people, and it does, like, get more people to actually make those arguments.
That reminds me too.
So
one response to this was perfect. I can never pronounce her name, so apologies. And it's sad to me that she's not running again, but she was fantastic. I don't know if Mumilak. She was the NDP MP for Nunavut. And she responds, "Hey, Turnbull Whitby," which is Ryan Turnbull here. "I haven't forgotten how you and the rest of the Liberals teamed up with the CPC to keep Indigenous languages off the ballot on PROC last week. Thanks for slamming the door on my face. Stop spreading your false narrative about Don Davies and Jack Harris." Like, exactly. Like, the Liberals constantly work with the Conservatives. Constantly. To do things like screw over Indigenous people. Or push through shitty energy policy. Because just like the Conservatives, the Liberals have oil money. We are a petro state. So yeah. It's all posturing. It's just embarrassing. And I hope people realize how embarrassing it is. And stop voting liberal. Stop it. Stop doing it. Stop it. And don't vote conservative, obviously, too. That one shouldn't even need to be said.
And don't vote for People's Party.
Wow, no one does already. Hey-yo!
Hello, my rebels. Hello, my rebels. I'm a good boy. I'm a weirdo.